Wake up with the sunrise, meditate to clear my mind. Thank you for this breath, I'm ready to be surprised. Don't know where I'm going, but I'm ready for the ride. Don't know where I'm going, but I know I got my guides.
Hello and welcome to Rachel's Healing Session. I'm Rachel Robinson, known as your victim rights attorney, but I'm also an author, poet, lyricist, gardener, and so many other things that I've realized and actualized on my healing journey. So, of course, I'm bringing all of that to you today with a very special guest. She is a board-certified health coach with a background in sustainability and food security. After spending over 8 years directing food rescue programs and food pantries, she experienced burnout due to the emotional and physical toll of that work, compounded by eco-anxiety, the pandemic, and her own traumatic event. This led her to a career shift focused on health coaching, where she now helps people prevent burnout, achieve their health and career goals, and thrive through science-based tools, inward reflection, and mindfulness. Her coaching philosophy emphasizes the importance of deep self-reflection as the foundation for lasting wellness, supporting her clients in cultivating sustainable habits for mental, emotional, and physical health. With a personalized, client-centered approach, she believes that everyone has the answers within themselves and is dedicated to helping them uncover these insights while holding them accountable on their journey. In addition to her coaching work, she continues to live by the wisdom of Thich Nhat Hanh, who said the way out is in, believing that true transformation begins with inner work. Her compassionate and thoughtful approach offers a supportive space for those navigating career shifts, recovering from trauma, and in the pursuit of holistic well-being. Please welcome Erin Meyer, MS. Hi, Erin.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Very excited to introduce you to my clients and community. How did you get into your practice?
Yeah, so as my bio said, I spent about 8 years in California working on food security programs where we were picking up extra food and bringing it to people in need. And it was really rewarding and interesting work. Every day was different. But then, the pandemic hit and the need was even greater, more hungry people, longer lines at our food banks. And food still seemed to be going to waste even more than we thought. And it felt like the job could never be complete. Like it was just an uphill battle we were facing. And then the struggles with the pandemic, with this eco anxiety that you mentioned in terms of me just being afraid of the future with climate change and everything was really hard. And then I had a traumatic incident. And so all of those things compounded into my own health issue, which then caused me to move back home to Colorado, which is where I now reside. So in April of 2023, I came from California to Colorado to heal with my family and used a lot of these practices to heal myself as well. So that's why I want to spread these things and teach other people how to reflect and use some of these really simple ideas. They sound simple, but they're harder to do, of course, in practice with habit change. But I just want to spread that and help people avoid burnout because it's real. 48% of people, if not more, are burnt out. That's a statistic from like 2024. So it's staggering. And for those reasons, I'm looking to help people avoid that as well.
Well, I appreciate that you're doing that, and I'm sure your clients appreciate you too. I know us in these helping professions, we really can get the opportunity and sometimes the burden of seeing on a larger scale how things that individuals experience really are affecting whole communities, and that can be very overwhelming. And then the fact that there's causes that are preventable causing them can be incredibly frustrating. And you talk about burnout. I recently learned that Colorado's family leave recently started including a clause for domestic violence survivors. And so even when you go through something as domestic violence, that has become such an epidemic that they're now leaving room for that in the Family Leave Act because people will burn out, their workloads get affected, and they need to take time away to deal with these court cases. And it's incredibly overwhelming. And so can imagine being anyone working with them that it's overwhelming for the profession as well, people in that profession. You mentioned that you learned the modalities that you're now sharing with others. What are the modalities that you have found most useful for yourself and your clients?
One of the most successful methods, not just for myself, but with other clients, is the H.A.L.T method. They find it so helpful that they put it on their background as their phone on their phone, which I love. It's a great reminder. So H.A.L.T stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Some people will say A for anxiety, and I have anxiety, and so that applies there. Definitely more of an anxious person than an angry person on my own. But what will happen is we get into these emotional states, which causes a behavior. And that could be a negative or a positive behavior or neutral, right? But sometimes that can cause, say, for instance, like, if I'm anxious, I might have a behavior where I fidget a lot, which is true, actually. So I might use this to say, okay, how am I really feeling? And then will that behavior help with that? Or for some people, maybe it's a craving for food and they're hungry and they want to know, is it just because I'm hungry? Am I angry and lonely, tired? Because those things can show up that way as hunger. And so you check in with yourself. And if you're hungry, then you go ahead and eat that. Or if you're just anxious like me, I might do some deep breathing. Or maybe you just need a nap, So it's a very useful tool and you could do it silently, right? Like in your head, you don't have to sit down and meditate or anything. It's just a little check-in reminder for really a lot of these different behaviors. So that's been really successful. I also want to just say nature. There is power to be found in nature. And I know that that's hard in a lot of areas, whether it's unsafe, unwalkable, things like that. But even if you can bring in like a plant to your space or anything, I've found that to be really therapeutic. One of the big problems, I think, too, with me being where I was in California, I kind of lost the nature piece. Colorado's got such staggering beauty. And so does California. But that little pocket I was in, it was very hot. It was in the Central Valley. So you're not like going around in nature very often. Nature has been just profoundly helpful in my own healing journey and for a lot of my clients too. I've got clients that are mountain climbers and they'll frequently say to me things like, yeah, just had an epiphany, like out on the climb. So that's big healer for sure.
Colorado definitely has that beauty. Even from the middle of Denver, you can see the majesty of the mountains, from anywhere. I remember when I first moved to Denver, I was told that if I want to use the mountains as directional points. So I'll know when I'm going west because I'll see the mountains. And it is just a reminder that we are so small and so are our problems. And the world is big and we can just gain perspective just by even looking at nature and looking at the mountains and then seeing how everything is just provided for in nature and just remembering that we will be provided for as well. If we just be mindful, take a breath and just know that we're okay. Even in those moments when we're not. I think this is a great method for just being mindful of our emotions. Because while our emotions do guide us to take action, we have to make sure that, like you said, that action is actually remedying the emotion. So we got to check in, see what is actually causing it and get to the cause rather than just lashing out or reacting to those around us and kind of causing more harm. You mentioned guided meditations and deep breathing. How would you describe what kind of deep breathing, what kind of meditations? And then could we do one here today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do some shorter meditations. I'm on Insight Timer, and most of them are around some sort of topic. So one of my most popular actually is like a post-workout meditation. And then there's also a pre-workout meditation. I really love that that's so popular. It's great. but they're like, 2 to 3 minute meditations with prompts on breathing and things like that. And so, I mean, you could do these things anywhere, these just silent meditations and then deep breathing. So one technique that is very useful is box breathing, where you are breathing in for 4 and then out for 4 and then in for 4 and again out for 4. And then you just do that on repeat, essentially, the box. So you could see in your mind going up, over, down, and then to the other side, and basically do that until you feel better. There's something very powerful about just connecting with your breath. So yeah, I would be happy to do one today. Actually, I have one specific for the H.A.L.T method that we could do.
Great. Well, I'll go ahead and get in position, or let me know what position we should be in, and we'll just follow your voice.
Excellent. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so you are invited to find a posture that feels as safe and supportive as possible. That might mean sitting, lying down, or even moving gently. You're in control, and this space is for you. Let's begin. Take a soft breath in through the nose or mouth and gently exhale, longer if that feels okay. Let the breath arrive without force or pressure. You might offer yourself this reminder: I don't have to fix anything right now. I'm just here to be with what is. If you like, place a hand somewhere that feels neutral or comforting, perhaps over your chest, belly, or even together in your lap. The simple gesture can help your body remember safety. H. Hunger isn't always about food. It might be a hunger for rest, touch, meaning, peace, stability, belonging. You're invited to pause and ask gently, what am I hungry for right now? Let yourself feel into that without judgment. If it feels safe to do so, you might say internally, whatever I'm needing is valid. My hunger is not too much. My needs are not a burden. You might notice sensations in the belly or heart that doesn't quite yet have words. Just notice it and honor it. You're allowed to have needs, and you're allowed to care for them. A is for angry. If anger is present, know this: it is not dangerous. It's often a messenger of, or an indicator of hurt, injustice, boundaries, or truth. If you're feeling anger or even numbness where anger might live, you're not doing anything wrong. You're responding in the way that your nervous system knows how. You might say, anger, I see you. You're welcome here. What do you want me to know? Notice how anger lives in the body. Heat, tension, an urge to flee or freeze. Whatever it is, that's okay. You can choose how to move with it. You may place your feet on the ground and press down slightly. Feel the contact. You're here now. The ground is holding you. Anger doesn't need to explode. It can become a signal, a protector, a powerful form of care. L, lonely. Loneliness isn't weakness. It's an echo of connection unmet. If you feel lonely, you are not alone in that feeling. It is something almost every human touches, and it hurts because we were meant to connect. You might say, it makes sense that I feel this way, and there's nothing wrong with me. If you'd like, bring to mind a memory, however small, of a moment where you felt seen or safe. Maybe it was a kind word, a smile, a shared laugh, a pet curling up beside you. Let that memory be a small ember of warmth, reminding you connection exists and I am worthy of it. You don't need to rush into action, just rest in the truth. You are not broken. You are beautifully human. T is for tired. Tiredness is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is often the body's own wisdom saying, please pause, please soften, and please come home to yourself. Whether that fatigue is physical, emotional, or soul deep, you're invited to let yourself rest. Not just in sleep, but in being. Take a breath that asks nothing of you. If it feels okay, say, I give myself permission to rest. My worth is not based on productivity. I do not have to earn rest. It is my right. You might notice your body's edges softening just slightly, or you might not. That's okay too. Your tiredness makes sense. You're carrying so much, and you're doing the best that you can. Let that tiredness be held by something larger, the earth beneath you, the breath moving through you, or simply the quiet company of this moment. Take a few final breaths just as you are. No pressure to, quote, feel better. No pressure to change. You've taken a brave step simply by being here with yourself. You might whisper inwardly or aloud, I honor my needs. I honor my feelings. I honor my body's wisdom. And when you're ready, only when you're ready, begin to reorient. Wiggle your fingers or toes, open your eyes and shift your gaze. You're still here and you're doing beautifully.
Thank you for that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope that was well not to. I hope no one fell asleep there. If so, that's actually totally fine.
Actually, I almost did. I just was,
Good. That actually is my job. Perfect. I'm glad. Awesome.
They say when people get out of fight or flight, when they finally are released from a really traumatic situation or any type of fight or flight mode, they can fall into a deep sleep. It's like finally their body can rest. And everything you were saying is so powerful because it's not just taking note of what the feeling is and why. It's reminding us that it's okay to feel these things and it's allowing it. And it was getting me out of any residual survival or fight or flight that I might have. As you know, before we even got on our call today, I had some pretty stressful things going on, unexpected things coming up, and just hearing, breathing, and there might be some tiredness, and just being allowed to feel what we feel is such an important permission to give ourselves. And so that was beautiful.
Thanks. And I am so glad that you bring up the fight or flight with some of the work that we do. If you're in fight or flight mode, parts of your brain are shut down, which makes it very hard to learn, very hard to function, very hard for behavior change. So, like, the foundation of the work that we're going to do together would be around how do we address that stress, which is where these meditations, the deep breathing, being out in nature, listening to your favorite song, petting your dog. My dog's over here. She's great. It's definitely something we said for pet therapy. But until you reduce some of that stress, making any other sort of change, whether it's, wanting to run a mile or something, that's going to be very difficult. So I'm glad that you bring that up because it's imperative to the work that we do. And stress is it's toxic and so prevalent that anything we can do to center ourselves and work away from that is like well needed, and also addresses obviously the burnout epidemic we're facing. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that that's a really important point that sometimes people forget about. Like, why are these behavior changes not working? Why am I having such a hard time with, fill in the blank, whatever you're trying to do? The stress might be a big part of that. Additionally, the stress of trying to make these changes because people put so much already on their plate, but then also high expectations. So giving yourself a little grace when you're trying to make behavior change, I think, is really important. Otherwise, you're just going to stress yourself out too, because you're going to be doing the shoulds. Oh man, I should have done that, or I should have done that, or I should have run my mile today or something. And that's stressful in itself. So make sure when you're going through any sort of like behavior change as well, really work on that stress piece too.
Absolutely. And when we live in a society that seems to encourage stress, it's like the busier you are, the more you're doing, and the more productive you seem, then that means that you are worthy. I mean, that's one of the things in your meditation, that you're not worth is just because you're working hard. And what I've seen, especially in my newer clients, is that they are so used to doing everything, whether it's juggling the family while managing the unpredictable emotions of their abuser, while taking care of everything the children need and their unpredictable emotions as well, albeit in a different way. And so they come to me and they're very skittish, not trusting, nervous, lots of anxiety, lots of emotions. Anger is in there, a lot of things that they haven't had the time to even sit down and process. And so I always feel kind of like in the movies where the cowboy is taming the wild, majestic horse and they keep getting thrown off. And then finally the horse kind of calms down, trusts them, and can be led to pasture. And it's a lot of that because it's so much going on and they don't know which direction to go and where they can ease into kind of relinquishing some of the control they think they have when things have really been completely out of control in these abusive situations. And then finally they can ease into finding themselves while I handle, the bigger piece of what's going on as they get out of that situation, the legal side while they get out of that situation. And so these healing sessions really are an opportunity to not only heal from the immediate trauma of abusive situations, but I find that these are skills, and I don't even know what to call it, resiliency tools that can be applied to everyday life. And it is a change in behavior. It's a change in perspective that we have the opportunity to do while we're healing from something that seems so big, and then realizing that, man, we need to heal just from this existence, even from the things we thought were correct and healthy, like being busy all the time, that we don't have to do that. And so, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that was really well said. It's a constant practice. I notice for myself, as I said, I have anxiety and my brain is always going to find something to latch on to. And I have to find the ways to unhook it. And like, for instance, I was going through some work stuff and then that all got resolved. And now I'm going through this other, really stressful thing. It's always my brain. That's just how it works. So you got to find the ways, your own ways that work for you, because it's an ongoing thing and you get better at it over time. You just, it's like, I can't think of a metaphor right now, but it's just something you got to do constantly. It's a daily practice. Usually.
Absolutely. And even phrasing it as getting better at it, it's like getting better in general. It's healing. It's healing. And, you mentioned the should haves. And one of the things too that my clients come to me is they are full of those. They think they should have been able to make their marriage work. They should do this. Should they do that? Will their soon to be ex-partner be angry if they do this or that? And firstly, I have to remind them that person has no power over you anymore. And quite frankly, they never really had real power. They exerted an unhealthy coercive influence over you, and you had you felt that you had minimal choice, but you made the best choice for yourself now, and now you're free of that. And then the other thing I tell them is something that my stepmother told me when I got out of my abusive situation. She said, if you got out alive, you did it correctly. And that has been incredibly empowering for my clients because there is no should have, there is no shame. You got out of there, you're alive, and now you have the opportunity to just make the future what you want it to be.
Wow. Speechless. That's beautiful.
So when we're talking about working with you, because I think that this is really amazing, the meditation has been very profound. And what can people expect when working with you?
Yeah. So typically what we will do is we will start with an intake. I also offer free consults, but we could get into that later. So like a 45-minute intake, you'll complete a form prior so I can kind of understand some of the things that we want to maybe address. So there's questions about like food, sleep, things like that. I really work around mindfulness, stress reduction, nutrition, burnout, and so on. But other health coaches will also do more around fitness and things like that. And so we will go over that intake and then kind of do some exploration as to your goals, high level, and then like really drilling down on that. So someone might come to me and say, I want to, run a marathon. Okay, well, why? Well, I want to run a marathon because it's just something I've always wanted to do. Well, why? So we go down this path of like 5 whys and really drill down behind the why. And maybe they get to something profound like, I don't know, my dad and I always ran together and he was a marathoner. So I really just want to follow in his footsteps and make him proud, but also I know how good it is for my health too. So when you drill down on those whys, you get past the superficial nature of that goal potentially, and then it's more effective to work towards. And so then we come up with a plan on how do we address those goals. And usually it's going to be a very, very small action plan. With behavior change, you can't go from I've never run before to I'm going to run 3 miles every day and then a marathon in a month. It doesn't work that way because life gets in the way, and that would just also lead to burnout. So we just take small actions. What is one thing you can do every day towards this goal? So, maybe 3 days a week, it's going to be run half a mile, whatever. And then other days you're doing some other form of cardio, little baby steps towards that ultimate goal. And that frustrates people because it's harder sometimes for them to see change. But then when you reflect on it, hence this inward reflection, you look back at the work we do together. And I've had clients say like, wow, Erin, like this is working. One of my clients said that and I wrote it down because I was like, oh, I love this. I love to hear success. So it seems sometimes that you're not doing a lot, but you are taking that step. Behavior change doesn't help. It doesn't work in an instant. That's why it's so hard. So creating these small actions that you could do over time. And that's an important point too, because hopefully a lot of these changes are lifestyle changes. Maybe you don't want to run marathons for the rest of your life, but healthier eating habits would be great to make those lifetime changes. So we create an action plan, one or two things. We find a way to track that because from my prior work in sustainability and stuff, I love data. So we'll find some sort of tracking mechanism, whether you're tracking it or I am. We decide how much other support you might need in terms of, do you need email or text reminders to do your actions and or remind you for appointments. I work with a lot of people with ADHD, and even having those reminders really helps people because that's a big part of it. They just forget to do their action. So then we come up with that communication method. And we also talk about barriers that might happen for doing these things. Like maybe you have kids. Well, I can't really run in the morning because I have to take my kids to school. So then we strategize. Well, can you do it on your lunch break? Or maybe, after work or something? How can we make this achievable and set ourselves up for success? Because if you start running into the weeks where it's like just not working out, you lose confidence and steam. And we want to make sure that we keep the momentum going. So really addressing those challenges is really helpful too. And then also celebrating the wins. I start all of my meetings, including my coaching, but in general, I just start all my meetings with a celebration. So we say one thing that we're celebrating personally or professionally. And with my coaching, it's really just, I have the client, and it doesn't have to be coaching related. I will have the client say, sometimes they're like, I saw the prettiest flowers today on my walk. Totally valid celebration, celebrate the nature, right? And I bring that up because we don't want to just focus on the challenges, right? But like focusing on celebrations and the bright spots for your coaching wins. Like some clients will be like, I drank no water today. And they're like, well, actually, wait, I did. Or, I actually ran 4 times this week instead of 3. Great job. So I really want to emphasize that that's an important piece of it too. To not be too hard on ourselves and remember the bright spots, which can be hard when you're in these situations. I fully understand that. So yeah, then we meet weekly. Generally, behavior change needs to be kind of talked about frequently. So the once a month is kind of difficult and such, but I do know people have busy lives. So either like weekly or bi-weekly, they're 30-minute sessions for about 30 minutes. all over the phone. So, at your convenience and so on. And then some clients will work with me forever, maybe not forever, but they'll have like continuously evolving goals. So I was thinking about this the other day. All but one of my clients have stuck with me and they've just been working on different things. So I had one come to me. She graduated today, actually. Congratulations, the students at University of California, Merced, which is where I worked for a long time. Shout out to them and her. Anyway, so she came to me and we were working on like time management, as you know, like probably with just life in general, but for college students, that's been a struggle. So we worked on that. And then she had some overuse of the phone. That's another thing I see a lot of people are like, I'm addicted to this. I can't stop. And so we kind of tried to put some brakes on, the phone use. And she got those things reined in. And so now we're talking more about like sleep practices. So we might start working on something and then go to another related kind of health thing or career thing too. A lot of the stuff I do also is on career shifts because I had a massive career shift going from food security, sustainability work to health coaching. So, and then there will be other clients maybe that they really just want to run the marathon. I shouldn't say just because that's a huge goal, but maybe that's their goal, right? And once they achieve that, then maybe we part ways and that's completely fine. And so that's about it. And then with those clients, it would be how do you continue to, on your own, set yourself up for success, right? That's an important piece of it as well.
So you're basically an all-around health and wellness life coach who can help my clients with their post-breakup glow-up, basically, and really turning the future of their life exactly how they want it. They will have the time, space, and freedom to really accomplish things that they never probably thought they could have. And you would help them put in place the habits and patterns and self-reflection to be able to do that.
Yeah, and the accountability piece there is important too. That's one of the big things my clients say. It's like, I know that I should be going to bed before X time. I know I should be doing this. It'd be helpful to have some wisdom as to how I do that, but then also just keep me accountable. So by having that weekly check-in is really helpful for people and for themselves too, because it also enforces the self-accountability. So that's a big piece of it as well. But I like what you said too, because when you have like a cheerleader, like a health coach on your team, for lack of a sports metaphor, coach is such a hard term for me because I'm like not a sportsy person. And so like if you have a cheerleader on your team, then you can focus on some of the bigger stuff in your life, and I can help reduce some of that lift as your coach / cheerleader. So then you don't have to think constantly about how can I make this change easier? I'm here to help with that, So how can we make this changing your sleep patterns easier? I found that to be really helpful for people. Then they can focus on the other stuff that's going on in their lives.
Absolutely. It's very difficult to focus when you're tired in the literal sense and in the figurative sense.
100%.
And so how could people reach you? And you mentioned that you have free consultations. How could they reach you if they wanted to take advantage of one of those?
Yeah, so I have a consult link on my website. That would just be a free 15-minute phone consult for you to see if this is something that's workable and appropriate for you. And then same for me as well, because there's certain things that I might not be like the best person to help you with. It's really hard to, do fitness stuff over the phone, which is why I tend to lean away from that. I can offer wisdom and advice, but sometimes you really just need a personal trainer for those sorts of things. So it's equally like, how do we fit together on that consult? And then questions they might have and things like that. And so that is on my website, which is deephealthcoaching.org. And then I'm sure that'll be in the comments or the description. And then I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, as well as LinkedIn. And all of those are just Deep Health Coaching. And I will be offering this meditation later. I moved the platform. I used to be on Patreon. It might be on a different platform at this point. And you will have that whole meditation as well. Also, just throw in my email there as well. This is an easy one. It's just Erin@deephealthcoaching.org. And whatever communication method is appropriate and feels right for you. And all of that communication would be anonymous and we could go from there.
And for any of my clients listening to this, if you would like to take advantage of a session with Erin Meyer, you do your free consult and you think she sounds great, contact my office and the Ray of Justice is going to cover your first session with her. And so I hope that encourages everyone to give it a try, get on it with your post-breakup glow up with Erin Meyer, and start accomplishing those goals that you've always had, or even help creating some that you didn't know you could even dream of. And so thank you so much, Erin. Is there anything else you would like my community and my clients to know?
No, but I love that term, the glow up. That is really like what this is, really for anyone post breakup or just in general. There's a lot of symbolism behind light for me. And so I really, really like that idea. Thank you for ending on that note. It's also just a very positive image that it conjures. So this has been great. Thank you. And onwards and upwards. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you as well. And thank you for joining us for this healing session.
Thank you.
Open your eyes and see your divinity. See the truth of who we be. I be you and you be me, and we are floating on this rock in the infinite galaxy. So relax and let things be what they will be. Set yourself free from all the fake news, fake rules that you insist on following. And when I get the sign to move, that is exactly where I'll be. Wake up with the sunrise, meditate to